The objective of the session is to be able to generate a PO log and a general ledger report, ensure the correct documents are attached to a purchase order, so WSIB, workers' comp, and certificate of insurance, how to create a purchase order, and then there's also other features like manage split items, mark items as received to process for trade payables. So these are some of the prerequisites prior to creating a purchase order. So these are things that need to be in order in your project in order to create a purchase order. Now, I think it's very important to read up on the purchase orders best practice guide. I will show you how you can access that. And then there is the companies and contacts. So whatever trade you're going to be using on a purchase order, you need to ensure that they have been added, that they exist in the companies and contacts module and have been linked to your project. And then of course, the financials, you want to make sure that, your budget lines are linked to a cost account because you'll need to pull that into a purchase order as well. Okay. And of course, the terms and conditions, which we can look at as well. All right, what is a purchase order? A purchase order is a document issued by a buyer to a seller that indicates types, quantities, and agreed prices for products or services required. It's generally used for temporary works, consumables, stationaries, aggregates, concrete supply, rentals, and others. It establishes the expected time for delivery or execution and can be used for one-time procurements or for a unit price agreement. One purchase order type is used at Elliston. The purchase order terms and conditions cover all procurement under a purchase order and are automatically attached to the PO when issued to the vendor through Gate 3. A purchase order is not linked to a prime contract, unlike a subcontract where that's linked. Now, there are some thresholds, and the reason I was asking how long everyone's been with Elliston is as of I want to say a week, these thresholds were changed. So they were increased. And now we have also an added stage of review process. When a purchase order is created, anything up to $50,000 will trigger workflow and be sent to the project manager of record for review. Anything above the 50 and under, the 100,000 will be the construction manager. It will be sent to the construction manager to review that purchase order. Anything between 100 and 500,000, that will go to the operations manager to review and approve. And then anything above 500,000 will go to the area manager for approval. Now, typically at these higher amounts, above 100,000, typically they should have a subcontract, not a purchase order, but there are exceptions. And then costing reviews all POs over 50,000. So in parallel with these others. I'm going to pull up the best practices in Gate 3. And this is where you can find the purchase orders best practice guide. So if I start typing in purchase order, so it's actually here, subcontract, supply agreement, and purchase order guide. So I think it's very important, especially those of you that are new to purchase orders and with the new changes, even if you've been with Elliston for a while, I think it's very important to read or go over this document. Gives you more explanation, detailed explanation on what you have to do with purchase orders. Okay. Talks about SDI. The other thing in the best practice guide, I'm just going to start typing in schedule because I know it comes up that way. Explanation for all subcontracts, POs, and schedules. So for those of you that were in the contract requisition course, you would have seen me open this up. And these are the different types of agreements. So these are actually subcontracts, but if you scroll down, you have the different purchase orders, agreements, basically. We use a unit price purchase order at Elliston, and then you can select for a category in the purchase order, whether it's permanent or temporary works, okay? So temporary works means any activity that does not become an integrated part of the project, but is needed temporarily to facilitate construction. Examples include hoarding, temporary power, temporary water supply, scaffolding, and hoisting. Temporary works are removed after use. Permanent works means any work that remains in place and becomes an integrated part of the project. Now, in the best practice guide, you will see this chart and you can see the categories are listed. So if your scope, let's say you had to create a purchase order for stationery, as an example, that would be considered temporary. And it also tells you if any attachments are required. So in this case, none, and applicable tags. Stationery would be a lump sum. So this is, I think, a very helpful chart. That's, again, in the best practice guide. So if you're not sure, you can always come over the guide and take a look at this chart. So this is kind of how a unit price purchase order works. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to create that unit price PO. In this case, you're going to think of the unit price PO like a shell. Let's use concrete, for example. Concrete, you can order throughout the life cycle of a project, right? Maybe you won't need it for you'll need it in month 2 or 3, and then you won't need it for another 4 months, but then you'll need it again after that. In that case, you would create your unit price PO. We have negotiated rates on the concrete. So you would add the items. You may not know the quantity at the moment or at the time that you're creating this unit price PO, but you do have the prices, right? You've negotiated the prices. So you don't have to put an exact quantity at this point. Only when you are ready to order is when you're going to pull from this template or the shell and create what we call an order from this unit price PO. Maybe it's easier if I just go in and create one just to show you. So in the home screen to access purchase orders, you will navigate over to financial management purchase orders. I'm there already. This will be your default view when you come into purchase orders. If you want to search for a specific PO, you can use these filter text boxes, a lot of information in here. Okay, you can open up a PO by clicking on the PO number. There's different views. If you see invoices here, in this module, you can switch between purchase orders and invoices. They're interchangeable. They use pretty much the same interface, and that's why you can just switch as opposed to coming here and actually having to select it, right? They share the same module, okay? You can view all purchase orders. This is where you can view the terms and conditions. And then you can also search for a purchase order by workflow stage. So maybe you want to know, is it with the project manager for review? Is it with the operations manager? Is it with a construction manager? So this will show you the different stages. So I can see there's one here with the operations manager for review. So if we need to get this pushed through, maybe I can reach out to the ops manager and say, hey, can we get this pushed through? Okay, PO terms and conditions. So let me just open it. If not, I'll just go into a different section. This is the terms and conditions that get attached to that purchase order and sent to the vendor. So right now, this one is blank because we haven't created a purchase order yet, but this is what they get. They get these terms and conditions sent to them with the PO. So let me just close that out. And let's go back to purchase orders, all purchase orders view. Now to create a new PO, you're going to click new purchase order. And let's go ahead and select a company. Let's do Pro Concrete. This vendor PO number, I mean, this is optional, it's not required. Maybe they gave you a quote, you want to enter that number here. This is not required. Category, so going back to that permanent and temporary, right? So if we go back here and we're looking at concrete place and finishing, concrete testing, so this is temporary. right? Concrete supply. So temporary. Let's go ahead and select temporary. And then right here, so this right now, it is mandatory, but they haven't locked it where it doesn't allow you to continue. So a lot of people tend to forget to add the category. So just keep that in mind. Subcategory is optional. This will help you for filtering reports. So there's a reporting module in Gate 3, there's a PO log, and if you want to filter it even further, I would recommend using these subcategories. Okay, so that's the first section. You pull in the company name. Now, if I were to click on to select a company, and the company I'm looking for is not listed here, you have to go into the companies and contacts module, see if they're listed, and if they are, link them to your project. If they are not, then you have to create a new company, essentially, okay? And then once it's been approved and you link it to your project and come back in here, it should be listed here. All right. You also have this where show all active companies, type of trade. You want to see a list on active companies, you can do that from here. So say you're looking for a company or you don't see it, you could try coming in here and looking for it here. So if you see that it exists, then all you have to do is link it to your project. And then here you can also choose to select from a previous purchase order or invoice, maybe a company you've used previously. You can just select here and click it instead of searching through all this. So the last thing we want to do here is you have to enter a maximum unit price PO amount. That is required. You can see it's denoted with an asterisk. So here I'm just going to put 40,000. This is where I start to enter my items. All right, so by default, there's only one line item. If you need additional line items, come over to this button, Add Line, and you'll get 3 more lines by default. If you need to remove some, you can definitely do that. You just scroll to the far right and click the trash bin icon. Okay, let me go back here. And let's say concrete. And, let's do cubic yards. I don't know the quantities yet because I haven't ordered it. I'm just putting this together. I don't know what the unit price per cubic yard would be, but I'm going to let's just put 200. And then here, I'll just leave that for now, or I can put miscellaneous. Put tools, just put each. And maybe I know the price for this. Now, what I can do or have to do is assign a cost account and a budget line. So if both of these are using the same cost account, then you would just check the main box. It would select both of them. So then I would click Assign Cost Account. So this is a training project, so I'm just going to select something here, and hopefully it works. Okay. All right. So I've pulled in the cost account and budget line. Okay, so automatically the budget line was, I had to pull in a budget line. Typically, when you pull in a cost account, the budget line will be pulled in with it. If it isn't, then you'd have to select the budget line. All right. Now, if you're creating a PO and it is, let's say it's for tickets, maybe for, I don't know, some type of entertainment, concert, who knows, meals, golf, donations, you will have to add that category here. And that has to do with the taxes, right? Because we're allowed to get reimbursed a certain portion of the tax depending on the category. So if it's any of these, you want to select it. Okay, in this case, it doesn't apply. All right, so we've added our items, and down below is a table. It auto calculates everything for you. Okay, so it shows you your subtotal, the tax. So I have HST because I'm in Ontario, and a total amount. This section here, I don't even have access to do anything here, but basically it's where you can add sometimes some vendors will say, hey, you get 2% if you pay within 15 days. This doesn't really apply here to purchase orders. That will apply when it comes to invoices. So if or when there are any associated documents, it will appear in this section. So when it comes time, or when we get an invoice for a purchase order, you have to link it, and that invoice would show under associated documents. Any comments and attachments that you want to add here. So you can add comments here. You can attach a file here. So I'll just add something here. If you make a mistake, you can remove it as well. So that's really how you create that purchase order. I'm just going to come over to the contact information section. So you'll notice that this section is blank. And if I were to click save, it should not allow me to continue or allow me to save. It should give me an error message showing me that this information is missing. So let's go ahead and try it. It is training, so it changes all the time. So let's take a look. Okay, so see, there you go. It accepted it. But typically in your project, that will never happen. You will have to enter the contact for the trade or vendor that you're using on the purchase order. Okay, let's go back here. So this is now the purchase order number. I'm just going to copy this. If I were to go back into the main view and I wanted to find that purchase order number, who was the contact? Pro Concrete. Okay, so I can search by company name. Let's do a refresh. And of course, by PO number. If I click on the vendor PO number, it will open up the PO. Same with the PO number. Okay. Now you'll notice here for document status, it says it is under review. So going back to these thresholds, the PO approval workflow. Now, if you recall, you just pull this one back in. We had put a maximum of 40,000. And so anything up to 50,000, so 40,999, the PM, the project manager of record, has to approve. And that's why you see under review, project manager review. So then this gets sent to the project manager, and the project manager will get notification. He'll see a little dot here. He'll click on it, which is tied to my activities, and that PO will sit in their requests product, right? The module. And this is where they'll find that PO, and they can either approve it or reject it. Okay. If they reject it, you will get an email with a link to the PO, but it won't tell you why it was rejected. Okay. You actually have to go into the purchase order, and if there is a comment, it's under this section called workflow, and right here, review comments log. That's where you would find it. If it gets approved, you will not receive a notification. You just have to come into the purchase orders module, look for the PO, and the document status will say active. Okay. Now, when a PM comes in here, or even a construction manager, ops manager, they will see this button, review button. Okay. So let's say that I am the PM and I want to approve it. I can choose to enter a comment, and you can see here, enter review comments regarding the document. Comments will be logged in the workflow tab, which is right here. So I'll just type in approved. All right, so see, now it is active, and I'm going to come over to workflow just to show you a little comment I added. So it tells you the date the comment was added, who was created by, and I had written approved. So, okay, let's go back here. So let's say in the case of this order, so this is what we've done more or less. Okay, I've started that PO. Now let's say it's time to order the concrete. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull whatever items I need from this shell, from this unit price PO, and create an order. In this example, I put a maximum unit price PO amount of 50,000. And in the first order, I created an order totaling 27,000. The second one was 14,000. The third one was 9,000, which adds up to a total of 50,000. If I had to increase or purchase more from this vendor or trade, I can revise my PO, and we'll go into that a little later. So what we're going to do right now is create an order from that unit price PO. Let's open that up. So when you create that first order, in this case, it's concrete, and now it's, we need some concrete, time to order some. You're going to see a button here called Create Order. All right, so it pulls in the information from that unit price PO. I mean, you can change this. You don't need to select the category again because it's in the original and these are linked. And by default, it will grab the subcategory, pull in the subcategory. Okay. Now, we did have items here listed, and you can see here that they're not appearing. If you don't see the items listed here, you have a button called Select Items. You can click on that and it will show you the items. So let's say we're going to order concrete. So you have to click Add Line. This works like a shopping cart. And now I'm going to pull that in. Let's say it was just concrete today. Now I know how much we're ordering. Now I know on sites, sometimes it's not always realistic that an order is created prior to the delivery of the goods, right? A lot of times the product or the materials, they get delivered, you get a packing slip, and then you'll go and create that PO. We do suggest creating it beforehand so that you can send it to the vendor. It gets the terms and conditions are attached and they get all that. So let's see what I can put here. Okay, so let's say this round we order 100 cubic yards totaling 20,000. And let's say there is a shipping charge. So there is a button available here. You're going to click on it. And you're going to type in that shipping charge. So let's say it was $300 as an example. In addition to that, so let's just put each quantity. We need a cost code and a budget line. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it. Just going to pick something here. Pull in that budget line again. And just like in the previous one, there's going to be a table totaling what you've entered. Okay, subtotal, taxes, and a grand total. All right, so this is what this order comes out to, and we can go ahead and save this and send it out. Okay, so this is what I was showing you in the previous one. If there is no contact name for that vendor, the system should not allow you to save it, okay, like it did the first time. So what you have to do is come over to the contact information section and then add the contact for Pro Concrete in this example. So you're going to select David Jones. And by default, this is set to yes and should be yes, because what happens is when you save this purchase order and the terms and conditions get sent to David Jones from Pro Concrete to this email address. Let's go back to the document and I'm going to go ahead and click save. Just save that as draft. Pull up the PDF. Okay, so let me go back and refresh. So you will see here that there's the original PO and there's the order we've created from that PO. I'm just going to scroll to the right here. And you can see that this one is still in draft status. Because the original unit price PO has already been approved by the project manager of record, this order that we're creating doesn't go through workflow because it was already approved and it's part of that order. The only time you'll get notified or there'll be a warning is when you go above and beyond, 15% above and beyond that threshold. So in this case, for this example, is 40,000. So if you go 15%, it gives you a buffer of 15% above the 40,000. but it'll give you a warning. And then if you go above that 15%, you cannot create another order. Now I'm just going to come back to the original. So what I do want to show you here is once you receive the product and you've entered that PO, someone is responsible to come in and mark that product as received. Now, when you come into the PO, you have to click edit like I just did. So I'll just show you again. Click edit. And then this field becomes editable. And you can tell you can edit this field or this section, sorry, because of the banner color. It turned to green as where you can see this one is blue. I can't do anything in here. I'm clicking, can't do anything. All right. You now have the opportunity to update any of these columns, okay, before you receive it. So maybe I just want to put here concrete as an example. And maybe I want to split this line. Okay, so let me show you what that does. So basically split this line item, this order. All right, there's a tooltip here and it says enter a number that is not less than 2 or greater than 10. Okay, so let's try doing 2 here. Okay, so it has split up the quantity. Okay, 1,000 each. I can click edit in here. I can change the quantity in here. I can change the description. So maybe this will be for a slab. I could change the unit price as well. So maybe, you know, I just want to get more descriptive to add more detail. Click apply. So then what it does is it splits the two. Okay. Of course, I can do it right from this view as well. And if one was back ordered, I could put 0 here, right? If maybe 1,000, well, in this case, it would be cubic yards or cubic meters. 1,000 cubic yards was back ordered, I could put 0 here. Okay, let's change that back to 1,000. Now we want to receive, mark this as received. Let's say we got the 2,000, we're using 1,000 for the slab, 1,000 for the column, and that's how it was marked on the packing slip. And someone's going to come in here and check this box if we've received it all. And there's a little calendar here. You're going to stamp it with the date it was received. Okay, I'm just going to scroll to the far right for a second again. And you'll notice that the status currently says active. When I click received, it will change to received. And then I can go ahead and save this. Now, I'm just going to come back to the original PO. Now, let's say that we realize that we're ordering more concrete than we expected to. And now it's not, we've reached our maximum of 40,000. And now, you know, maybe we're going to need another $20,000 worth of concrete. You don't want to create a new purchase order. You want to revise the existing one, okay? So you have this revise PO button available. You can come in here and just change the amount here and submit it. So when you submit it, it will trigger workflow again, meaning that it'll go through the workflow process, the review process. So it will go back to the project manager of record to review and approve. But because now it's over 50,000, it will now also go to the construction manager, right? So now it'll go to the PM again, because we've increased the amount of that PO, and also the construction manager. So some considerations: corporate credit card to be used for one-off transactions below 2,500. Scope greater than 50,000 with a labor component should be issued a subcontract agreement, okay? Don't wait for an invoice to enter a purchase order. Terms and conditions are to be signed by the vendor, okay? So those terms and conditions I showed you that get attached to the PO, those are to be signed. If a vendor scope grows, so this is what we were just talking about, do not issue multiple purchase orders. You want to revise that current PO to ensure the proper workflow is triggered. And then install labor component requires clearance certificate. So WSIB, workers' comp, and certificate of insurance. You also want to use the preferred vendors list. You can always reach out to your purchasing procurement clerk in your area, and I will pull that up and show you who that is. And you also want to, as we discussed in the beginning, you want to review the PO best practices guide, which I shared out with everybody. What I would like to do is go over to the Elliston portal, show you our preferred vendors list. Under project resources, we have purchasing. So go ahead and click on that. This is everybody in the purchasing team, okay? Now down here on the left-hand side, you'll see preferred vendors list. So this is still in Google Drive, but this will be changed. Now, let's say that you needed to order some business cards as an example. You want to come in here first and see if we have a negotiated rates with a printing company. So here you can see there's Astley Gilbert. I'm going to open that up, and it has negotiated rates for different areas. So let's say you're in the London area. You can pull this up and you can see the negotiated rates. Okay, so we do recommend coming in here first. Same goes for, let's say that you're just going to Home Depot, you need to pick up some consumables, but we have negotiated rates with Rona, so you might want to come in here first and take a look. So we do recommend that. The other thing is in Gate 3, under companies and contacts, let me just pull that up quickly. There's also a tab here that shows all our preferred suppliers. Okay, so this is training, so it doesn't list all our preferred suppliers, but this gives you an example of what that looks like. Okay, and if you're in the main companies view, anything with a star next to it is referring to a preferred supplier. So if I were to click on, in this case, Aimco, and go into their profile, there is this button called Program Overview. Not sure if it's going to open here, but it takes me to the purchasing page on the portal. Okay. So these are your purchasing clerks. So in the Toronto area, it's Pat Presta, Alberta, Stacy, and then BC is Shane, PME, Shanna, and EDFS is Sean. Now, I want to look at two reports. So there is the PO log and there is the general ledger. So this is really a cost tracking tool in Gate 3. This is where, with the general ledger, you can review committed costs. You can see what invoices have or haven't been linked to the purchase orders created in your project. It just helps the project team to better manage their project costs, and it can also help facilitate an NPR. So let's go over to, now if you're in this view, Gate 3 Home, the new user interface, you're going to scroll to the bottom to Reports and Analytics, and you're going to click on Reporting. If you're already in this view, you're going to come over to Start Reporting. Takes you to the same place. Financials. So here is your purchase order log. Let me click Create Report. Preview. It's going to download an Excel file. And this will show you all the purchase orders that have been created on your project. Okay, so you can, in an Excel report, you can filter this report. Okay. And then the other one that I find very useful is this ledger report. So let me go ahead and click Create Report and Preview Report. You can download an Excel file as well. And this is more or less what it looks like. Okay, so here you will have, this report will eventually be updated. I think there's going to be some changes to it, but any unit price POs you will have here. And then the vendors are listed, the cost code, the order date. If there is an order created from that unit price PO like we did today, then it would show that order number here in this column. Okay, with the item description, the quantity, the estimated project cost, Anything that has been invoiced, the invoice will be listed here with the amount as well. So you can see in my project here, there has not been any invoices linked to the purchase orders. So that is a concern. So I should look into that. And then there'll also be a table here that give you totals of total invoiced cost, estimated project cost, committed cost, and revised budget, if there is one. And you'll notice tabs in this ledger. So this is a summary. So this will show all the purchase orders on my project, and then it actually breaks it up by purchase order. Okay, so you can view it individually. And then some of our training resources as well. So training calendar schedule. I think you already know how to search for that. And then there was the monitor the Gate 3 updates to stay informed on all new modules, enhancements, and improvements. So if you come over to Gate 3 in the home screen and you want to see what's new, what's been improved, new features, just click on what's new, and you can view all updates. Okay. Gate 3, new and old interface. So when you first log into Gate 3, this is going to be your home screen, what you're looking at on my screen here. This is the new user interface. Okay. Everything in the corporate section uses this new user interface. Most of the financials, like the purchase orders, are still in the old. So if I come over to financial management and I click on purchase orders, a new tab or window is going to open up. That is an indication that I am using or going to the old user interface. And you can tell because the look and the feel is different. Okay, so if I go into a module, let's say companies and contacts, this resides in the new user interface. You'll see that the search is different. You know, here it's inline filters to do your search, as where in the old user interface, it's these filtered text boxes. And then here you have additional filters. A little different. It does not impact your work or how you do work at all. Just so you understand that there are two user interfaces right now. Eventually, the plan is to move most of it over to the new user interface. But for now, most of the financials are in the old, with the exception of cost management. But you will know just by opening it. If it opens up a new tab or window, it is old Gate 3. Okay, I'm just going to head over quickly to the Learning Hub. So Learning Hub. So any events that you want to register for, you can click on events up here. Okay, and not just Gate 3, there's webinars for other things in other departments, other programs, practices, best practices, stuff like that. So you can come in here and you can enroll. Now, if you click on catalog here on the top, next to events, you have a catalog here. Navigate over to tech training and then Gate 3. In this section, you can find all the Gate 3 webinar series and you can register through here. If you can't attend a Gate 3 webinar, we have them recorded as well and you can access it from here as well. The other thing I want to show you in the catalog is, let me just back out one, is the Knowledge Hub. I think this is important and will be helpful. So let me just go in there quickly. So a lot of information, a lot of great information, and depending what team you're with, what your role is, you can see here RFIs, purchase order requirements. So a lot of great information here as well. All right, I think that's it. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do is if you can take 2 minutes of your time and scan this barcode or take a picture of this barcode and fill out the survey. It'll take about 2 minutes. And thank you so much for joining.